across the state. This is new video in from Fort Myers Beach. Just came in from an architecture firm over in that area. The entire area, as far as the eye can see there, you can see this, is inundated with water. This is that storm surge that we've been talking about all day long. Cars are submerged. Homes are flooded. Streets, you cannot see them there. If you're familiar with the Fort Myers Beach area, this is off of Estero Boulevard, which is like A1A here in Fort Lauderdale or on Ocean Drive in Miami Beach. So we're right next to the water, and you can just see the inundation of flood water there and storm surge there in this particular area. I also know we have some video out of Sanibel. We know that the eye wall approached this area around Captiva not too long ago, earlier in the afternoon, and you can see the storm surge in the water and its impacts here in this video. The street signs there, this water is all the way up to the base of there, and this situation is only going to get worse, and these conditions are only going to deteriorate as this massive storm continues its march across Southwest Florida and the Gulf. And this is video out of Collier County. We've been watching this feed, of course, as conditions continue to deteriorate. We could actually make out a little bit of water and beach earlier today beyond those palm trees there. Now it's kind of hard to tell, but you can see a little bit of the wave action moving through there. But Collier County, Lee County, that entire area there, lots of the first responders and emergency management personnel have been encouraging people to shelter in place since earlier in the day because roads are impassable. You cannot get rescue crews out, and so they're just making sure that people stay where they are and don't venture out in this storm, because it will continue to be very dangerous to do so. And the Marco Island Police Department tweeting out this video showing the water up to the docks there. And this was earlier today around noon. You can see just how much water we're talking about in this Marco Island area there. And take a look at this new video we got in from Naples. Showed this a little while ago. Fallen power line there, just blown over by Hurricane Ian's winds, causing this fire, and you can see the wind blowing the flames and the smoke there. Very dangerous conditions. This is why folks should not be out and about, because you never know if and when a power line will come down and what the impact will be. And thankfully this eventually extinguished on its own. And we were sent this startling video. We want to show you this. And this is from a viewer, Everglades City. And you can see that this viewer says that this was from her home over in Chikolsky, that's just south of Everglades City, at 9 this morning. Her driveway was not flooded, but just 3 hours later, this is how it looked. Conditions changing at the drop of a hat as this storm continues to move through our area.
It's devastation that was predicted, but the grim reality of this storm's raw power defies imagination. Ian, now a tropical storm, hit the coast as a fierce hurricane, shredding homes apart in Placida, Florida, tearing off roofs and splintering trees, while in the Tampa area, extreme winds causing this tree to crash through a home. In one of the hardest hit areas, Fort Myers, there were storm surges nearly 7 feet high, nearly double the previous record more than 20 years ago.
Oh my God!
The massive surge of water leaving entire communities completely underwater.
You want me to come out?
Roads looking more like the ocean for block after block. Ian packed catastrophic 150-mile-an-hour winds, knocking out power to more than 2 million customers.
We have seen life-threatening storm surge, as was predicted. We've also seen major flooding that's going to rank as one of the top 5 hurricanes to ever hit the Florida Peninsula.
This team of emergency responders unable to respond. A massive wall of water swamping their fire truck.
Now we have a truck issue, and the guys are pushing the truck out of the bay.
In Port Charlotte, hospital staff working through the storm to protect patients. Other first responders struggling to help those in need, unable to start rescues until after life-threatening conditions subsided. Despite repeated warnings to leave, some people did not or could not evacuate. They found themselves stranded by a 12-foot storm surge. Mark and Elizabeth live in an apartment in Venice Island, Florida, but at the last minute grabbed their air mattresses and hunkered down in this Sarasota office when her boss offered it to them.
Here you are with air mattresses in an office space. Your home is 50 or 100 miles away, but you consider yourselves lucky.
Yes.
We are.
Yeah.
Is that because you're safe from the storm?
Yes, because somebody help us.
Others stayed behind in the flood zone, trying to help those who were unable to leave.
Now at 11:30, Florida assessing the damage caused by Hurricane Ian as rescue crews search for survivors. You're watching Eyewitness News at 11:30. We're live on ABC7, Hulu, and wherever you stream. I'm Philip Palmer.
And I'm Giovanna Lotta. Help is now pouring into Florida after being damaged by Hurricane Ian.
Water rescues underway right now as officials survey the aftermath. Eyewitness News reporter Carlos Granda is live in our newsroom with new video of the destruction we're seeing across Florida. Carlos?
Well, that's right, Philip and Giovanna. People in Florida this morning are waking up, assessing all the damage and beginning the long cleanup. Ian made history as one of the most powerful hurricanes to ever make landfall in Florida, decimating parts of the state. Residents today waking up to this. Fort Myers flooded with up to a 12-foot storm surge, shredding structures to pieces, debris floating in the streets, cars submerged. This is where the center of the storm came ashore. Maximum winds were around 150 miles per hour. The Sanibel Causeway Bridge washed away. This connects the island to the mainland. Scott Carlos from Fort Myers rode out the storm.
There's just debris everywhere. Everybody's garages basically just gave out, and everything from everybody's garages, cars are everywhere, smashed up in the street. Most of them actually went across the street on the east side of the street, but there's just debris everywhere. Things are just chaotic.
Authorities in Naples say they conducted about 10 rescues before the storm surge flooded their fire stations.
It was a little unnerving, to be honest with you. We felt like we had situated ourselves with a good plan, but as the water rose up so quickly on us, we kind of retreated back into the station. But it was unnerving because we couldn't get out of the station.
The storm moved slowly through the state, bringing torrential rain to central Florida. Here you see a reporter from an Orlando TV station rescuing a woman who was trying to drive through severe floodwaters this morning. The woman says she was on her way to work as a nurse when she got stuck. The reporter carried her on his back out of the chest-high water. City officials are now asking residents to stay off roadways and shelter in place due to the reports of flash flooding. Crews had to use airboats to rescue people. More than 2.5 million residents were told to evacuate before the storm, and those who didn't will now have to wait. People cannot believe the destruction.
We were gonna stay, but then all of our family members kept calling us and telling us it wouldn't have been a good idea, and we're actually glad we didn't stay. There's other people that did, and their trailer's just as bad as ours, but they can't do much about it.
It made landfall as a Category 4 hurricane, packing 150-mile-per-hour winds on Wednesday afternoon. It's ripped roofs off of buildings, turned roads into rivers, and decimated some of the state's critical infrastructure.
Recovery efforts are underway across the state. Severe flooding and life-threatening storm surges are bearing down on parts of Florida's southwest coast. And although the storm has largely passed, Florida Governor Ron DeSantis says more flooding is expected.
The amount of water that's been rising and will likely continue to rise today, even as the storm is passing, is basically a 500-year flood event. This storm is having broad impacts across the state, and some of the flooding you're going to see in areas hundreds of miles from where this made landfall are going to set records, and that's going to obviously be things that that will need to be responded to.
Let's bring in CBS News correspondent Chris Van Cleve. He is traveling along the Florida coast, surveying the damage. Chris, behind you, it's obviously a mess. Tell us what's the scene on the ground there now.
Well, we've just gotten into Fort Myers, came across the bridge, so we're looking at downtown. The very first thing that you see is this marina as we're coming in. And obviously there are boats in places there should not be boats. As Tony opens up, you can see not only are boats off their moorings and on their sides, but they are well inland here. So we look out towards the water. That's where the boats all started, out there in the river. And they were pushed by the fury of Ian off their moors, into the dock, and in some cases, about a half a block onto land. You have sailboats on their side. You have large yacht-type boats also just thrown about. So this is the first taste we're getting. And I tell you, as we're driving in, the first sign that you were really getting into a situation where the winds were ferocious. There's a motorboat sitting in the middle of the road on 41 as you come in here to go over the bridge. If we pan this way, Tony, You know, you can clearly see this was part of the dock. This should be out in the river. This boat is on land, and as we keep coming, you're going to see over here you have boats that are hundreds of feet from the water. So you had a storm that was powerful enough to pick up large boats, yacht-sized boats, and throw them to land. And we know that the amount of surge that came through here, 7 feet, 10 feet of ocean of water, moving all of this debris onto land, that means it also went into homes. That means it went into businesses. So this is our first taste getting into Fort Myers of the kind of destruction that we are hearing about throughout Lee County, the home to Fort Myers. So as we're able to get driving around here, we're going to get a better sense.
The scope of the damage from this deadly hurricane has become painfully clear tonight. We have just learned this evening that Ian is now a hurricane again, growing stronger, winding up for another devastating blow as it now moves north and right up the east coast. Here in southwest Florida tonight, Ian struck as a Category 4 hurricane, just shy of a Category 5 24 hours ago. And this evening, we have now learned the storm surge was record-breaking and deadly. The flooding not just on the coast, but of course inland too. Tonight, there are urgent rescues underway, and the death toll is climbing. President Biden has warned that there could be a, quote, substantial loss of life right here in Florida. At this hour, Ian is now a hurricane again, a Category 1, 75 miles an hour are the winds, now moving back into the warm Atlantic waters, forecast to crash back ashore in South Carolina sometime tomorrow. And we have new images tonight of Ian's fury, the eye wall plowing through Placida, Florida, ripping homes to shreds there. The storm surge overpowering this building in Fort Myers Beach, lifting it right off its foundation, washing it away. And tonight, of course, the damage the storm left behind. This Fort Myers Beach community left in splinters. The ground littered with debris. Along the shore, a pile of boats unmoored. And far from the coastline tonight, neighborhoods flooded for miles, one home on fire with no way to fight the flames. And the major damage to infrastructure across the region. The Sanibel Causeway severely damaged tonight and unusable. Nearly 2 million people still without power in this state tonight. And on the northeast coast of Florida, Ian arriving as a tropical storm in St. Augustine at peak high tide. Orlando getting record rain and flooding, rescues taking place there. And the efforts to rescue families remain underway statewide. In Naples, a car window smashed to free the driver inside. In Tampa, boats ferrying people to safety from their flooded homes. And in Orlando, more than 100 residents rescued from a nursing home where sandbags failed to keep the water out. Our team across the storm zone tonight, in fact, the Coast Guard, a Rear Admiral with the Coast Guard, Brendan McPherson, is right here with us tonight on the rescues taking place at this hour. What they're seeing, the conditions inside these homes, what's left of them. But first, what we've seen, the destruction across this state.
Tonight, the deadly toll of Hurricane Ian, the massive destruction here in Florida, coming into clearer focus. The deadly storm making history as one of the most powerful hurricanes ever to make landfall here in southwest Florida. And along with the hurricane, the staggering amount of rain. A once-in-a-thousand-year rainfall, they're calling it here. Bridges destroyed, homes on fire, entire neighborhoods underwater in Fort Myers. The Lee County Sheriff surveying the devastation, capturing these images tonight. The shorelines decimated, plumes of thick black smoke in this neighborhood. The Sanibel Causeway washed away, cutting the island off to the mainland. From the ground, Fort Myers Beach leveled, the pier gone. The catastrophic damage, power lines catching fire, nearly 2 million still without electricity tonight. 20,000 Florida power and light crews racing to restore power here across this state. Florida Governor Ron DeSantis.
The impacts of this storm are historic, and the damage that was done has been historic.
President Biden in touch with Governor DeSantis again today. The president speaking of the enormous human toll here and the real fear that that toll could rise dramatically. The president at FEMA headquarters today.
This could be the deadliest hurricane in Florida's history. The numbers are still unclear, but we're hearing early reports of what may be substantial loss of life.
Tonight, at least 7 confirmed deaths. Hospitals evacuated amid the floods. Search and rescue teams fanning out. The Nassau County Marine Unit rescuing 2 people on their sailboat overnight, grabbing them and pulling them to safety. Naples Fire and Rescue smashing windows to get to this driver, while other members of the fire department wade through waist-deep water as they unload their fire truck, submerged in the waters here. They have been rescuing families, bringing them back to the fire station. Dozens of large Chinook and Black Hawk helicopters performing rescues. And these images tonight of the U.S. Coast Guard airlifting stranded people from rooftops near Sanibel Island. 1,000 FEMA personnel deployed here, supplying millions of liters of water and meals, and hundreds of generators. Charlotte and Lee counties reporting more than 500 rescues, more than 300 rescued in Orlando. In this neighborhood, local police teaming up with the National Guard. Orange County Fire Rescue racing in with stretchers to rescue seniors at the Avante Assisted Living Facility. Hurricane Ian making landfall as a strong Category 4 hurricane, just shy of a Category 5. The record-breaking storm surge. Whoa. Ripping roofs off homes, sending debris flying. This time-lapse of Fort Myers Beach showing floodwaters taking over the streets. Boats floating away.
There's like 3 boats. There's 4 boats.
4 of them.
4 boats.
We don't know whose cars most of these are.
The family riding out the storm in their grandmother's home, watching from the windows as cars and homes float by.
This is a house from across the street at the beach.
Walking outside, the palm trees bending in the wind.
Somebody's RV came in our backyard. That's our pool. That's our deck. That was my house. My house is gone.
On the ground here, we met Josefa Arsana Munoz, who left home to ride out the storm with family, only to find her home badly damaged today. She said it was terrifying. They could feel the hurricane blowing inside the house.
You don't want to go through that again.
Because no water, no food, nothing. My friend called me because of this stuff. Yeah.
And terribly frightening. But at least you're okay and the family's okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. We're glad.
And the Logue family, Sam, his 7-year-old son Mason, staying with their pastor because the pastor's home is built of brick. They couldn't get back to their home today because of the floods.
Any word on your house?
Yeah, we had all the barns. We had 2 or 3 barns there. They all flew away.
In Tampa, powerful wind gusts sending this tree crashing into a home. In St. Augustine, this SUV submerged, the boat behind it rocking in the waves. And that father tonight grateful they left their home to seek safer shelter, now knowing what so many now face.
I'm sure you're feeling pretty blessed you were here.
For sure. Yep. Yep, God kept us safe. I know a lot of people weren't so fortunate.
Make sure you have a bag with a dry pair of clothes, with ID, cell phones, wallets. All right? We're gonna get. There's a whole bunch of people, just like y'all, thousands of them. Take you to a shelter. We'll be all right. You'll have food, water, and everything. They're not gonna go, are they? No, everybody else is staying. They don't want to go, so we're gonna go. Keep on moving.
Look at this. This is the damage that those waves left behind. Just a wasteland of debris downtown Fort Myers right on the coast. It's really an unrecognizable landscape. Businesses were destroyed, so many of them, and people do remain trapped tonight. But from the air, I want to show you this as well. This is drone video showing you the strong winds stripping the leaves off of trees in Bonita Springs. Boats sent flying into the mangroves, out into the streets. Fox 13's Haley Hines spent her day there today in Fort Myers and said there is sadness in every direction.
The road to Fort Myers Beach is littered with debris. Buildings blown apart, boat after boat stacked on the side of the road. This one on top of an SUV. And you can see a rope from the back of this boat still attached to a piece of dock here. As one person who lives here put it, it looks like a war zone. If you knew Fort Myers Beach then, it's gut-wrenching to see it now.
It's just heartbreaking, and people are so wiped out right now.
A boat on a tennis court, a golf cart in the palm trees, homes leveled.
We have to make piles. We don't know what to do, like where to put things.
People who once lived in paradise are recovering what they can.
It blew through hurricane doors, hurricane shutters, and it took everything from everyone. And it's just devastating. You don't know where to begin.
When Hurricane Ian made landfall Wednesday as a Category 4, storm surge erupted onto Fort Myers Beach, flooding businesses and hotels, water rising to second-story balconies.
11 feet of water took everything out. It took everything.
The Sanibel Causeway, the only link between Sanibel, Captiva, and the mainland, washed away.
I figured, it's not going to be that bad, and I figured we'd ride it out. Worst mistake of my life.
The Caloosahatchee River swelled, leaving downtown Fort Myers underwater, stacking boats on one another.
Yeah, that was a very tough day, you know.
On the Cape Coral side, the pier is gone. We spotted this boat grounded in the median, mangoes and coconuts among the debris.
We was fishing on a Tuesday. Yeah, Tuesday we were fishing on a Tuesday. No more.
For those who've lost everything, there are just so many questions.
What's everybody going to do? How is anybody going to recover from this? I mean, I don't have the money to go anywhere.
What was once home to many, a home away from home to many more, now feels so unfamiliar.
You feel like you're in a war zone. You don't feel like you're in your little community, your beautiful little beach town. We'll rebuild, we'll make a new life, but it's still hard.
Back here in Southwest Florida, they have barely begun to unravel the twisted damage from Hurricane Ian. All the attention, understandably, is focused right now on search and rescue. Accounting for the missing has been made incredibly difficult by a lack of communications. Cell signals are spotty, if not impossible. For urban search and rescue teams, these are the critical 72 hours in which they stand the best chance to find and save those who might be trapped or in need of medical aid. 2 days after Ian slammed into Florida with those ferocious winds and that wall of water, tonight, entire neighborhoods remain submerged. others reduced to rubble. The scale of Ian's fury only starting to sink in.
When you look at some of these things, like you see a house totally washed out, you just hope that those were folks that that had left, or that those structures were not occupied.
Florida officials have sent thousands of search and rescue personnel to try and find those still trapped. Coast Guard rescue teams plucking people from decimated Sanibel Island in baskets. This woman clutching her 2 cats. Helicopters and boats now the only way out. No picture better demonstrates the power and ferocity of Hurricane Ian than this one. This gap is the roadway that leads to the Sanibel Island Bridge on the other side. That island now virtually cut off.
It's a big commitment to any municipality.
And in devastated Fort Myers Beach, we rode along with Florida Task Force 7, a search and rescue team comprised of firefighters from Tallahassee. This dog is looking for human remains?
Yes.
State law enforcement!
Fire department!
They knocked on door after door.
State law enforcement!
The days of search and rescue members marking with orange spray paint what they found, what they have searched are largely over. Now they use an app and can digitally map where they've been. It allows them to cover a lot more ground a lot more quickly. As we made our way through the neighborhood, I met Nancy DeLay, a nurse who had just moved here from Massachusetts.
We floated on a mattress for a while.
You floated on a mattress?
Yeah.
She and her fiance did not follow the evacuation orders.
We stayed for the whole storm.
Yeah.
And we called 911 and they said they couldn't come, and we understood.
She says she feels lucky to be alive. You regret the decision to stay?
I would absolutely regret the decision to say I don't ever recommend it.
How difficult is it for you as a first responder when people don't heed the call to get out?
Well, it's unfortunate that you have people that have nowhere else to go.
So many here have lost everything.
We've had so many good times here.
We met people leaving Fort Myers Beach on foot. What little they have left is in those suitcases.
It's like a war zone right now. Yep. The whole island.
The devastation's unbelievable.
Then we met Barry Lawrence.
And I'll never experience it again.
He was riding out the storm from a third-floor condo on the beach when he says he started seeing friends' homes swallowed up by the waves.
I went into the water and saved 3 people, and I lost one friend. I couldn't save her. She got washed away.
But there are also incredible stories of survival.
Stay right there, bud.
Firefighters and residents jumping in to pull this man from what's left of his home. Early estimates suggest the damage from Ian could cost as much as $47 billion. That would make it the costliest storm in Florida since Hurricane Andrew 30 years ago.
This was a marina building that used to be here, right here behind me. It ended up out to sea. It was pulled out by the storm, and this giant boat here behind me took the other route. That was in the water, ended up on dry land. We spoke to the owner of that boat who rode that storm out on the boat, and here's what he told us.
Have you ever seen a storm like this?
No, not this big.
seen the other hurricanes, but nothing like this.
When Hurricane Ian hit Fort Myers Beach, boat captain Mike Stasic was in for the ride of his life.
It was surreal. It was very surreal.
Mike had decided to ride out the storm on his boat docked at this Fort Myers Beach marina. It's made of steel and has a generator, so he thought it would be safer than home. Mike showed me video of what he saw as the hurricane gained strength.
So here's the one with you'll see the building that collapsed over there. You'll get to see it in a minute. You can see we're running the engines, holding the boats in place. Should in a minute see the building. There's the building.
Wow, it's just right in the water.
Yep.
He'd tied the boat he was on to another large boat he owned. Both weigh about 50 tons, he says, but even that was no match for Hurricane Ian. At about 3 a.m., all of a sudden, Mike was lifted up by the force of the water and the wind.
We didn't actually get dragged around until the very, very end.
What was that feeling like, being carried along as the storm was going?
Just really, we knew it was out of our control at that point, so we just figured we were happy we were blowing inland because we knew we'd wind up over land, not out in water that we're sinking, be in real danger. So that you just couldn't see anything. The wind was howling. We knew we were in the parking lot. We didn't know where we were going to stop.
In the end, after a wild 15 hours, Mike and his boats, which were still tied together, landed in the street. And while they aren't a total loss, Ian sure took a chunk out of this boat Mike used for his business, a floating hotel.